My name is Niclas Ingeström. I'm Chief Digital Officer at Castellum. It's a real estate company headquartered in Gothenburg. But we are quite big, so we are all over Sweden and in Finland and Denmark as well. So we are on a journey, you can say, and I will take you on this journey a little bit and see how far we have gone and what we have done so far, because this is a major change for us, and that's what I'm going to talk about today, and what we have actually done so we get things done. That's most important, I think. Yes, to understand what this is a company with 650 buildings, big buildings. We have, I think, a value of 100 billion Swedish kronor today and a turnover around 6-7 billion Swedish kronor per year. And we focus mostly on offices, logistics, buildings, and co-working as well. We own a company called United Spaces, which is it's really good for us, and I will come back to that later on. But we don't have that many buildings with shops and so on because we don't believe in that in the long term. You probably understand why, but because we're gonna buy everything on the internet, we think. So, what is a real estate company? What do we actually do during the day? Yes, we rent out square meters to business customers. And when I started 2 years ago at Castellum, I have been working there for 1 year with Corona and 1 year without Corona. So it's kind of strange, but here we are. We have 6,000 customers. But when we talk about customers, it's the people who is signing the contract. And I think that is important to understand where the industry is today. So we are focusing on renting out square meters for 5, 7, maybe up to 10 years in one contract. And the customer is the person who is signing the contract. Of course, we meet the customer in between and so on, but it's not that often. So we don't try to sell anything more in the past, I would say. What we are aiming for is the 250,000 people who's going in and out in our buildings every day. We call them private customers. And this is really important because if we can reach out to the 250,000 people who is in our buildings every day, we can help them to a better life, a work life, but also, of course, we can earn more money. So usually when I start to get into a new business or be responsible for a new apartment or something like that, I always start and sit down and start. I have 3 steps actually. So I start to think, and I talk to a lot of people, like the executive board and also the board members and managers and so on, because you need to talk to them first. And of course, I talk to the customers as well. And then after a while, I think I get some kind of perspective. What is this? And then I start to communicate. And when you start to communicate what we want to do, it's easier to get the money for it as well. The next step is actually to build. And I always try to build and test directly, not wait for a year or 2 years, because it's kind of dangerous to wait for a long time, because then the product can be, old already, because the world outside our industries is going really fast. And then, of course, the last part is to actually deliver a good product and follow up as well. And not follow up after 1 week, follow up after a half year, a year, and so on, and just continue, because you need to continuously develop your product. It's really, really important. So how do you actually do this when you want to think and communicate? I think it's really important to find a vision and get the executive board on board this as well. So, and a vision must be customer focused, and it must be everyone within your industry, and also maybe the customer needs to understand it. What are we aiming for? I will come back to that, what we have done with this. And this is not like 3 years. This is more 5, 7, up to 10 years. And we have actually 10-year vision, and you will understand it later on. And then when you've done the vision, I always do a 3-year strategy and a roadmap as well, because a roadmap should be like a one-page, so you understand you can divide it into different areas, like preparing buildings, and then innovation and culture change and so on. And I think it's really important to have this changeable as well, because this can happen. And you can't just continue. If you have a strategy and the vision should still be there, but if you have a strategy, you need to change how you are. And that we have done that dramatically, I would say, in these times. So this is a bumpy road. You need to change, and you need to, after 3 years, you need to have a new strategy for the vision, and you need to change during this 3 years period as well. Otherwise, you will be lost in the end. So my tip for you is to have a long-term vision that everyone understands, and have a strategy that you dare to actually change. Okay, so our vision is in 2030, 40% of our sales shall consist of innovative and digital services. And this is, like United Spaces, renting out furnitures and all these kind of things. And when you 40% of sales, we have a turnover of, as I mentioned before, around 6 billion Swedish kronor. And 40% will be a lot of money. It will be a couple of billions. So we need to do something dramatically and change within the company. And when we did this, the part where I am responsible for, it's more digital business development. We did a tech and innovation strategy. I hate the word digitalization because I think it's starting to get old. So we are focusing and taking in new technology into the company and do innovation around that. And I think that is really important for us, because digitalization for a colleague who is actually doing the service on the buildings don't understand that, but this is more understandable. So the first part is it's divided in the strategy divided in 4 parts. And the first one is cognitive buildings. This is more think about self-learning buildings. So here we have built up a huge AI who taking in data from the buildings and make them more energy efficient and so on, but also a lot of data from the customers and also external data into the same AI. But we call this digital renovation of our buildings. But it's more to that, but to make it more understandable internal, we have done it like that. The next part is simplify work life. And it's there we actually do the parts where we can connect to these 250,000 customers. It's services and other things as well. And I will come back to that later on. And you can ask me questions, what we have done so far as well later on. And so it's there we focus on the 250,000 people. And of course, if you want to have this, you need to have a good innovation process and a method to come up with new ideas for new services and so on. And that we have done in the past innovation in Castellum, but it's more like when you build a building, then you do the innovation, and you don't share it after you have built the buildings. So it's kind of strange actually. But now we try to share and more involvement and so on. And of course, the last part is people transformation, because this is a huge change. I would say today we are used to wait in the phone and somebody's calling and wants to rent square meters. And now suddenly we should sell things. And that's a huge change for us. So as I mentioned, this is about people transformation. And where we have been in the past is renting out square meters. And we have our own website, of course, but it's a lot of agents, as you can see in the low left corner. So you go to agents, and then you search, and then you find Castellum properties and Vasakronans properties and so on. And it's not easy to sell this. What we have started with is to rent out furniture and coffee machines and cleaning service and all these other things. And now we need to cooperate more with the customers during the time they rent the office from us. And this has been a huge change the past 2 years. So we have been focusing on that. This will take a long time, but here is good money, actually. So I think this is a really good thing. And the next part is, how do you actually connect with these 250,000 people? Okay, you can't actually employ a lot of salesperson who is calling these people and emailing them every day. You need to have something else. And then we decide, okay, we need to have a really good app. We had an app at United Spaces co-working place, but we need to have something totally different. And that is what we have been building now. And to make an app really, really good, you need to have a lot of data in the back, because the data is the future, and it's there you find your new insights. And I will give you a really good tip here now, because I've done this a couple of times. When you build up an AI and then you go to the executive board and then say, okay, AI is the future and will solve all our problems, and then you have a really scary pictures, which is usually ridiculous. It doesn't tell anything. The only things you will get here is a lot of technical questions from people who doesn't understand it. And instead, I usually do this. Okay, we have a problem. We need to reach 250,000 customers in an app. So what is our main goal for this? Okay, this is to simplify their work life. So make their work life easier, because then they will use the app, and then we have a new communication channel. And okay, and how we will do this? That will be solved from Cassandra. So we call our AI Cassandra, and then we put up a picture. The picture is bought from Fiverr for 800 kroner, Swedish kroner, from an Indian guy, I remember, I think. So we have a picture and we have a name, and instead of talking about the technology, we talk about the functions, and then Cassandra will solve that. Of course, that will be complicated, but it's when you talk to executive boards and managers, it's easier to focus on a name and a little figure or something like that. So that's why we have done it like this. And this is a recommendation: don't talk about technology. It's a waste of time. And to make this work, you need to have really good people who's building this. Smart people, really good at user experience and building AI and working with data. So this is the team I'm using. All these people are startup people. So I've not been going to like a big digital agency or something like this, because this is much better for me. I have a person from Alexander is from Norway, Peter is from Denmark, and so nobody's actually in Gothenburg where I am, but it doesn't matter. And this is a really good people I have to build the app and the AI and everything. So you need to find really good people. That's really, really important, which you can trust as well, of course. But okay, if you build an app, and how do you actually get 250,000 people to download up in the first, that is really difficult. So what we did, we got together with 5 other real estate companies. And so we have built like a cloud service for digital access, like a digital key. And so we are in the building process to change all our buildings. This goes quite fast, I would say, because we have built a cloud-based service which talk to our existing lock systems in the buildings. So the only thing we need to do is actually to put up a sticker and register the lock in a database. And then you can just touch your phone to the sticker and that will open the door. And because of that, you actually need to download the app as well. And the customer loves this, and it's really good for us as well, because then they use the app many times during the day, and we can start to communicate with our customers and starting to sell services. So I think it's really important when you do something new that you understand that you need to have early usability testing, and you need to find a couple of customers who really likes to be a part of this. And you will find it, I promise you. And because if you do that in an early stage, the product will be so much better. Because we have had a really bumpy road in the beginning,
Yes,
I promise you.
1 minute to go, so if you can start wrapping up.
Yeah, I will do that.
Awesome.
Yes, 2 more pages. Yeah. So what we are today is actually we're testing live at our co-working United Spaces. Problem, Corona time, but there is quite many customers, and they have been really helpful, and it have been a bumpy road, of course. And the last page is about scaling up. When you're scaling up for 250,000 people, you can't just drop this app for everyone. You need to focus on a few customers to find the best business value, both for the customer and for us as well. So that was my last page. Yes.